Hello, viewers. Today you're in for a special treat for two reasons. One is this reInvent 2024 is one of the most exciting reInvents I've been to in many years. I've recorded another video where I was bubbling with enthusiasm about all these new developments. The second reason why this is such a special episode is because I have a special guest, and her name is Neha. Neha Goswami.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming to this show. I'm so happy you are here. Would love to start with some introductions.
Absolutely. Hi, Sanjeev. Very nice to be here on the show and very excited about reInvent as well.
We will talk more about that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me introduce myself. I lead Q Developer in AWS, which is part of the Next Generation Developer Experiences team. I lead the engineering team for that. I've been in AWS for a couple of years now, but I've been a long-term Amazonian. I've been here for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Straight out of school? Or?
Yes, so yes, my journey here has been, as a grad student, I joined Amazon straight out of school,
Oh, wow.
as a junior SD,
Right.
and then I was here in the developer experiences team, working on building tools for internal developers. And then I did that for about 3.5 years, moved on to do retail technology and operations technology. So been engineering and engineering lead throughout my life here. And then I was itching to get closer to my technical roots.
I see.
So
Yeah.
a couple of years ago, I made the move back to come to AWS. And interestingly, I landed at a very
Pivotal moment.
Yes. So first of all,
Yeah.
there's Gen AI.
Yeah.
And secondly, I'm doing developer experience again. So it's been
Yeah.
sort of a full circle for me.
And the team that you're in is relatively new, correct?
Yes.
What is it called? Next Generation Developer Experience?
Yes, it's called the Next Generation Developer Experience. The team was formed actually early last year.
I see.
And
Okay.
the idea was that with Gen AI now coming into the technology realm, how do we envision developer experience? We believe it will make a material change
I see.
to the experience of developers and how development is done in general. So we thought we should put together an organization which is focused on just that mission.
That is amazing. So let's talk more about why you think it'll make a big difference in the developer experience. What is different about how should we think about software development lifecycle, and how does Gen AI play a role in that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gen AI in general is going to have such a huge impact on all aspects of SDLC. So it's starting from building applications and writing code and doing a lot of stuff that developers have done in the past, like unit tests, documentation. I'll talk in detail about that. But it's more than just building code, which
Yes,
will become
correct.
easier. It will also be how can you operate your systems in production? How can Gen AI help you do that in a much
Right.
better way? So that's another aspect where I feel Gen AI is going to make a huge difference in a much more positive way. And the third area, which we call sort of modernize and transform, that's something I feel like Gen AI can make a huge difference here, especially Q Developer, and I'll tell the story later, is like we have software which is legacy software running from so many years. Nobody wants to touch that. How do we take that software and modernize it, bring it up to date, keep it up to date, keep it secure
Right.
and easy to maintain? So I think really it's all aspects of software development that are going to be influenced very positively by Gen AI.
So three building blocks are build, operate,
and transform.
and transform,
Yep.
or modernize.
Yeah.
Right. So, in fact, it's so interesting. We spend so much time about building and how AI is helping building, but from everything that I hear from developers, is that's only 10% of what they do.
Yep.
A majority of the time is in operating it and keeping it up to date, transforming it, modernizing it. So let's go through each building block. So can you dig deeper into the build part?
Absolutely, yes. So focusing on purely the build part, Q Developer today helps developers write code. That's the first thing we do.
Okay.
And you can invoke Q Developer. It's a plugin which is available in all the major IDEs.
So Visual
out there.
Studio,
So it's
I
there.
can go
Absolutely.
and give a prompt. I can say, write me a HTML code or website code with these.
Yeah, so we offer it in different modalities, I would say, as a plugin.
Right.
You can actually have very specific. You can click on a specific method name and ask for something related very specifically for that method, or you can just do free-form chat.
I see.
And
Okay.
it's all like it's the interweaved in the experience itself.
So it's low code. Low code.
I know this one is still very codey,
But
but
I
it's
see,
all
okay.
in natural language.
No, I
the
see, got
person,
it.
the developer
Okay.
still sees the code.
Yes.
And
yeah.
gets to interact with the code,
Right.
but the prompt is in natural language.
Yes. So natural language interface.
Yes.
And then the UI can also, I can click on button and say go.
Yeah, so you can do a right click and then give some instructions,
Right.
or you can just write pure natural language
Correct.
prompt for
Okay.
anything. So I think it just makes the UX a super sleek and simple.
Right.
It makes it very easy for developers to just get the
Right.
right code. The code that is generated, we already run a bunch of scans on that, so it's secure code and it's
see.
good quality code. And what the developers can do now with the announcements that we just made at reInvent, unit tests can now be generated through
wow.
Q.
Okay.
And documentation can be generated
Wow.
by Q.
Okay.
So all traditional tasks which
Right.
developers have typically not liked to do, the test generation has been painful. Documents get out of date so quickly.
Correct.
So generating documents, keeping them up to date with Q developers become really simple with the releases that we've had. And one that I am excited about is Q is now your first code reviewer. So the first review can be done by Q,
Yep.
which if you think of what is the role of a code reviewer in pair programming, the person who does the review has a bunch of things in their mind that they're checking for.
Correct.
And now the Q developer agent can do it for you for code reviews. It will do the same level of checks, and it will test for, again, security. It will test for some quality checks that it's trying to do. And that's really the first feedback that you get.
Amazing. So, which is so good because as a developer, I'm happy to write code. I don't want to document it. I don't want to create unit tests. And now I have a assistant who can just do it for me.
Yes,
Which makes me so much more productive. It's helping me write the code, so I can focus on business outcomes rather than focus on like getting the right syntax. And I missed this comma here, or hyphen there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the way I look at it is with Q developer assisting in so many ways. I think the developer now can focus on much more creative aspects of writing software.
Right. So I know we had reInvent, but in the market, in the industry, there's been a lot of excitement about tools like Cursor or Replit. So is the build part similar to what they do? Can you talk?
Yeah, I think Cursor is a very good product. We are actually very inspired by it. I would say that they've done some really, really good job there. So yes, in the build part of it, our tools are similar, but I think one differentiator that we have is our agent for software development. So the approach we are taking over there is more of a independent, autonomous running agent. And it's called /dev. That's how you invoke it. And you could say /dev, write me a payment API, which does X, Y, and Z. And it will take that set of instruction and actually generates multiple files. So it can create like a pretty big set of files for you, project files, along with documentations and tests. So I think that approach of having an autonomous agent is a unique one
agentic
for us. Yes.
approach. I see. That is amazing. And can it autonomously run the unit test and then use it to review the code and rewrite or refine the code? Is that?
Not today, in today's version, but yes, that's the vision that we can actually have the agent do self-improvement.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Without going into any NDA, any back-end sausage making, can you give some ideas to what language models are used behind the scenes? Is it a combination of models?
It is a combination
I see.
of models that is used behind the scenes.
Okay.
And there is a variety of factors that impact which models we use. Sometimes
see.
it's the latency is a factor.
Right.
Sometimes it's more, we're looking for long-running tasks where we have more time, so we
Right.
can use more powerful reasoning models. But I can share that we do use the state-of-the-art reasoning models behind the scenes.
I see.
Yeah.
Because, we know AWS just announced a series 6 new models
Yes.
all under this family called Nova, and then also invested another tranche of $4 billion in Anthropic. So the variety of models is quite impressive now in AWS.
Absolutely. So the way we look at models is, I think, picking the sort of best suited model for the job we have to do.
Yeah.
So if the job is something complex where you have to do code generation and deep reasoning, you can, and we have lots of time to do it, so latency is not a concern. You can have one model selected, whereas for some of the easier tasks, you can pick a different model where latency is a concern, and we're looking for like quick response back.
Right.
You can have a different model for that.
Okay. If I'm in a on the data analytics side and I want to automatically generate my SQL query, can I use QDeveloper?
You can use QDeveloper for that, yes. You can use it in the IDE and also on the console.
Like, can I go to Redshift and
Redshift has this capability too. Yes, it will help you write the right SQL query over there.
see.
That's, I think we talked about IDE on the build
Yes,
side.
correct.
But really,
Yeah.
QDeveloper is available in other what
It's
I call
embedded.
channels as well. Yes. So if you go to the AWS console, it's there. It's there in the mobile app also, actually. Yes.
Okay, so let's move to the operate part.
Yes.
Can you throw some light on what this Q?
So I think on the operate part, the way I like to think about it is we have operated AWS cloud for like almost 17 years now at this point, and it's the largest, most reliable cloud out there. So we have a lot of learning as a result of operating our own cloud. And we put a lot of that into QDeveloper in the console. So it's available in the console, but it's really the job there is how can QDeveloper help you operate your applications in production? So the specific release which I'm excited about is the troubleshooting part. So oftentimes you have applications which are running and you'll see some sort of issues in production. So the thing we announced was when QDeveloper can now, when an alarm is triggered, it can do investigation on what can be causing the issue.
So root cause analysis.
Yes. And it presents that to the user and says, okay, your alarm went off.
Yeah,
here is a
correct.
possible root cause. Here is a way to fix it.
Right.
And now I think a lot of work is now done for the user. I've been one of the developers who've been paged at 3 a.m. And if I had an assistant who had done that level of analysis for me, I think that would have been remarkable. So I think developers and operators are both going to love this aspect of QDeveloper as well. I think it's going to save them a lot of time.
I see. And when we operate things, we've got a lot of observability tools that are doing like collecting metrics and logs and traces. What is the connection between QDeveloper and AWS's?
Yeah, so today QDeveloper can look at CloudWatch metrics. We look at the X-ray, we look at CloudTrail logs. So it's a combination of data that we get from our own observability tools, and on that we can do investigation of issues. With time, I anticipate this is only going to increase, and we're going to look at even more observability.
Like third party?
Yes, absolutely. Talking about third parties, what we have done on the operate side is you can go to console today, and if you're using Wiz or using Datadog for your infrastructure, you can actually through QDeveloper, just say @Wiz and ask questions.
Oh wow!
About Wiz issues in particular.
I see. So in QDeveloper, I have to point to some external source, like Wiz or Datadog, and then I can just start asking questions. I can say, "Tell me why this alarm was raised at 3 a.m."
So I think that yes, absolutely. So that's a pretty for us. That's pretty remarkable. Because we recognize that tools in the monitoring and observability area, there are just so many of them. And we want to, we don't want to make our customers move between tools. So really our approach there is that if the customer is using, especially like Wiz and Datadog are pretty popular tools. So if they're using these tools, we want to give them a single pane of glass where they can come and ask questions, do investigations, so that they don't have this what I call tool fatigue, of like going between different tools and looking at different formats.
This is a game changer because, and I love this maturity of AWS, and it's embracing this partner ecosystem, and you're not like forced into must always use tool X or Y. You bring your existing tool, and it's integrated, and now you have a single pane queue developer. So we've talked about build, we've talked about operate. Let's talk about transform or modernize. How does queue developer help me with that?
Yes, I think besides the review, the story that I'm super excited about, the transform is the second one, which got me personally very excited. The reason is because we saw a huge success story internally. With Modernize, the vision that we have is Q can help you keep your software up to date. And you can easily go from older versions of a language to a newer version without having all your different teams going to have to manually do the work. And we do that for Java, going from Java 8 to Java 17. But we also announced some pretty big transformation capabilities in the reInvent talk, which is mainframe modernization and VMware. So I think I think those are again pretty game-changing things, and teams spend like, especially in the case of mainframe, it's like years being spent on that, which are now going to be reduced to sort of order of months. Going from 3-4 years to order of months is a huge improvement in that area. The success story that we saw internally with Java, because we use Java pretty heavily inside Amazon, it was like 30,000 pipelines were upgraded.
Oh, wow.
Again, within...
How much time?
It just took us a few months. It would have taken us again years, because we would have done campaigns and then different teams.
30,000 pipelines.
Yes.
And what benefits did AWS get?
So we did some estimation, and it's like 4,500 dev years saved, and there's an even dollar figure because the new version of Java is way more performant and cost effective. So it's 260 million annually.
Every year.
Which is staggering amount,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
So not only is this
It should give you 1% of that. It'd still be a lot.
So I think for us, it's like, yes, you get very tangible benefits in terms of just savings of time and monetary benefits. But purely from a developer experience perspective, no developer wants to do the upgrades. I think the mind share is really utilized in doing more creative problem solving, as I was saying earlier. And the upgrades can be taken care of by Q developer.
So if I have COBOL program on my mainframe, can I use Q developer and say, here is a COBOL program, please convert it into Java 17?
Our vision is to get there.
I see, okay.
But what the tool does today is actually it will first, there is a series of steps or phases which are involved in mainframe transformation, where you go from COBOL to Java. And typically the first step is just, what does the underlying system do? Just even documenting that is a huge improvement.
Yes,
so
correct.
Q developer helps in that stage.
Right.
And then it's about decomposition. So it's like documentation, but it's also like sort of dividing your system into some modules and explaining that to the user. And then it's the code translation bit that is happening. So it's different pieces, but just on the documentation and the decomposition side, it's just a big step forward.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I come from the data side more, and I'm super excited that I believe it's Q developer that's plugged into DMS, database migration services. One of the steps in data migration services is to do schema conversion.
Yes.
So can you talk more about that?
Yeah, so I think again, utilizing Q developer, you are able to transform, right?
Yeah.
The schema can be converted. It used to be written handwritten in the past, but then Q developer can generate these new schemas for you. And that is really very powerful. Again, taking out what I call the grunt repetitive work.
Yeah.
AI can do that for you now.
That is, it's phenomenal how rapidly we have transformed, or we have, this new ways of doing things that make us more productive to do this. Neha, if we were to do this video recording again next year, AWS reInvent 2025, what's on your wish list that you can talk about? I know you cannot reveal what's on the roadmap, but publicly, is there something that really excites you about?
I think we would have. I am expecting we would have made a significant difference in quality of all the solutions that I talked about across the board, whether it is the build or the operate or the transform bit. I think all of these solutions will be just more effective. So I do anticipate that from like if we went from 4 years to 12 months, hopefully we would be down into 10, 8 months by then. So I think that is going to be a theme that we are going to see in all these areas. I totally anticipate that. I am very curious to see how we will continue to use the different models under the hood for the different power that they bring, and all the machinery that we build around the model, how will we tune that to give sort of the best experience. I do anticipate also having more integrations with third-party tools. I think that's a very powerful direction for us. In general, it helps us meet the customer where they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that will continue to be a theme as well.
Thank you so much for coming to this episode. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same here.
I've learned a lot. And I hope all of you did too. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you, Sanjeev.
You're welcome.